Good morning, students. Welcome to AP online sessions for intermediate students. This is Prashastha Kumari. You are watching civics class. So today's topics are differences between directive principles of state policy and fundamental rights. Students, second year topics are very important for competitive exams also because you will write entrance exams and competitive examinations after your intermediate. So these are useful for civil services, groups, DSC, all recruitment exams, law set, diet set, etc. So I request all of you to go through all these topics thoroughly and be attentive in the class. Okay. So our topic is differences between fundamental rights and directive principles. So this is our constitution. So our constitution came into force on 26th January 1950, and in this constitution there are 395 articles divided in 22 parts and 8 schedules. At present there are 448 articles in 25 parts and in 12 schedules. Okay, so you may get doubt. So I always says that fundamental rights are incorporated in third part and directive principles are incorporated in fourth part, like that. So that is why I want to tell all the parts of our constitution, so to get better understanding for you. Okay, so part 1 deals with the union and its territory. Part 2 deals with citizenship. Part 3 deals with fundamental rights, and part 4 deals with directive principles, and part 4A deals with fundamental duties. Part 5 deals with the union government, and in that union government executive is there, parliament or legislature is there, and also judiciary is there, subtopics. Okay, so next in part 7, states in the part B of the first schedule repealed by constitution. Okay, so next part 8, the union territories. In part 9, the panchayats are described, and in part 9A, the municipalities are described, and in part 9B, cooperative societies are explained, and in part 10, the scheduled and tribal areas are explained, and part 11, relations between the union and the states. So our country is a federal country, that is why how the relation should be is explained in this part. Okay, legislative relations, administrative relations, and also financial relations. And next in part 12, finance, property, contracts, and suits are explained here. Okay, so in part 13, trade, commerce, and intercourse within the territory of India is described, and in part 14, services under the union and the states is described, and in part 14A, tribunals are described, and in part 15, elections. Okay, so the method of elections was described here, and in part 16, special provisions related to certain classes are described, and in part 17, official languages of our country were described, and in part 18, emergency provisions of President of India were described, and in part 19, miscellaneous things are there, and in part 20, amendment of the constitution is explained here. Okay, our constitution can also be amended. I told you in 3 methods our constitution can be amended. So those are described in part 20 of our constitution, and in part 21, temporary, transitional, and special provisions are explained, and in part 22, short title, commencement, authoritative text in Hindi, and repeals. So these are the 25 parts which are in our constitution at present. Okay. Okay, so these are the fundamental rights. So you learned in your previous session that we are all enjoying, that means all Indians are enjoying 6 fundamental rights, and those are right to equality, right to freedom, third one is right against exploitation, and fourth one is right to freedom of religion, and fifth one is cultural and educational rights, and sixth one is right to constitutional remedies. So every Indian is enjoying all these fundamental rights, and these are the articles 32 and 226 through which our fundamental rights are being protected by one organ, that is judiciary. So judiciary consists of Supreme Court and High Courts, and these Supreme Court and High Courts will protect our fundamental rights through these article 32 and 226. Supreme Court will get authority through article 32 to protect our fundamental rights, and article 226 gives authority to High Courts to protect our fundamental rights by issuing writs like habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, certiorari, and quo warranto. Okay. So, and this is the sixth fundamental right through which our fundamental rights, all the above said 5 fundamental rights, are being protected. Okay. The right to constitutional remedy was created as one of the main fundamental rights because the Constitution recognized the need to protect the rights of the citizen. So, not only granting, our Constitution also providing us the safeguard or the protection of our or the implementation of our fundamental rights. So, okay, so in case of any one of the fundamental rights being deprived or denied to the resident of the country, the individual or the party has a right to present their case in a court. That means if any of our fundamental right is violated, then we can directly approach court, that means Supreme Court or High Court, for their implementation. Okay, so in this case, the court has a flexibility to assign writs to the public in the form of habeas corpus, mandamus, prohibition, quo warranto, and certiorari. In the case of a national emergency, the government has the flexibility to append the right of the citizen. That means court will safeguard our rights by issuing these writs. Okay, so during emergency periods, that means during the occurrence of wars, any disturbances in our country, so then we are not going to enjoy all our fundamental rights except right to life. Okay, so according to Article 32, Indian citizens can stand up and fight for their fundamental rights if they are breached. So what is the meaning of breach? Violated. So if our fundamental rights are violated, then Article 226 is there and Article 32 is there for protecting these fundamental rights. Okay, so this is Supreme Court of India, and these are the writs. So through which our fundamental rights will be protected. So habeas corpus, I will tell you in brief. Okay, so habeas corpus means if a person is arrested and if he is not submitted before the court within 24 hours, then the court will issue this kind of writ. That means habeas corpus. Next one is mandamus. Mandamus is issued when a public official or a government employee is not doing his duty properly. So that is why this writ cannot be issued to private officials. Okay. Next is certiorari and prohibition. So these two writs are related to courts itself. That means Supreme Court and High Court will issue these two writs to the lower courts, that means district level courts, to stop the proceedings or to stop the case trial and to transfer those cases to Supreme Court and High Courts. Okay, so next coming to quo warranto. So quo warranto is also issued against public official. That means not to private official, only to public officials, that means government employees. So when it will be issued means when he gets a job, when a court finds that a person got a job through illegal process or in any illegal method. Okay, so that means the court will ask that person to show his proof of his appointment, how his appointment, okay, appointed. Okay. So this is the classification of directive principles of state policy. So in our previous session, you learnt about directive principles and their types. Okay, so these are divided into socialist principles, Gandhian principles, liberal principles. Okay. So and now we are coming to our main topic, that is differences between fundamental rights and directive principles. So let us discuss point after point. Okay, first point is the first difference is they refer to the basic rights guaranteed to the citizens of India under the Indian Constitution. So these fundamental rights are itself they are laws. Okay, they are guaranteed to the citizens by our Constitution. That means our Constitution is also providing a safeguard, okay, to protect these fundamental rights. So that means every Indian citizen can enjoy these fundamental rights without any discrimination. Okay, so coming to the directive principles to the state to be followed while framing laws and policies. But that means they are not guaranteed by the Constitution. They are simply guidelines to the central and state governments. Okay, so whether they may follow or they may not follow, but these are the guidelines while framing laws and policies. That means the government, central government or state government can use these directive principles while making laws and policies. Okay, so second difference is they are written in part 3 of the Constitution of India. So you all know that fundamental rights are incorporated in part 3 of our Constitution and from article 12 to 35. Okay, so coming to the directive principles, they are written in part 4 from article 36 to 51 of the Constitution of India. So these directive principles are incorporated in part 4 of our Constitution from article 36 to 51. Okay, so it is negative in nature as it prevents the government from doing certain things. So the negative itself means not to do. So that means these are not, we should not do these things. That means government should not do. That means do nots to the government. So that is why they can be called as negative in nature. Okay, so they are positive in nature as it requires the government to do certain things. So these directive principles are positive in nature. That means do's. They always says what to do. That means the government may follow or may not follow according to the financial resources of the governments. Okay, so next difference is fundamental rights are justiciable as they can be enforced and their violation is a punishable crime. So fundamental rights are justiciable. Justiciable means anybody can approach to court for the implementation of the fundamental rights. So if they are violated, if their violation happens, then it will be punished. So it is a crime. So violation of fundamental rights is a crime. It is a punishable. Okay, so coming to the directive principles, they are not justiciable as they cannot be enforced and their violation is not a punishable crime. So here coming to the directive principles, they are non-justiciable. That means we can't go to any court of law for the implementation of these principles because they are not laws. Okay, their violation is also not a punishable crime. Okay, so that is why they are optional, not compulsory. Governments will follow some principles and will not follow some principles. Okay, so they establish, next difference is fundamental rights establish political democracy. So what is political democracy means? In our country, after attaining the age of 18 years, everybody is getting a right to vote. So and after getting right to vote, we will participate in the elections and we will elect our representatives or ruler. So that is political democracy. That means political democracy is granted to all the citizens by these fundamental rights. So coming to the directive principles, they establish social and economic democracy. So what is social democracy and what is economic democracy? You have to know. So social democracy means people will get help from the government. So in what way means government is implementing so many welfare programs in our country. Both central government and state governments are implementing so many welfare programs like public distribution system, pensions to old age people, disabled, reservations to BC, SC, STs in educational and employment opportunities, abolition of untouchability, MNREGA, that means Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Employment Guarantee Program will provide work to the rural laborers and also subsidies, loans at low rate of interest, etc. So these are the many welfare programs implemented in our country. And next, coming to the economic democracy. So economic democracy will grant to the workers participation in the management of industries. Okay, that means economic democracy is granting participation to the workers in the management of industries. So these directive principles will grant us economic and also social democracy. Okay, coming to the next difference, they are legal sanctions. What they are means fundamental rights. So fundamental rights are legal sanctions. So fundamental rights itself are laws. So there is no need to make a separate laws for the implementation of these rights. Their violation itself be considered as crime. So their violation is a punishable crime. Okay, so that is about legal sanctions. So what does the directive principle says? They are moral and political sanctions. So but that means directive principles are moral and political sanctions. That means they are based on moral principles and based on governments for the implementation of directive principles. Some governments may implement more directive principles. Some governments may implement only some directive principles of our constitution. Okay, so next I will show you some laws made for the implementation of directive principles of state policy. So I told that directive principles are not laws. So for the implementation, government should make separate laws. Okay, so these are the some of the examples of laws made for the implementation of directive principles of state policy in our country. I will read out. Okay, so first one is abolition of Jamindari system. So in our country, Jamindari system was prevailed. So now it was abolished for the implementation of directive principles. So next one is introduction of land ceiling act. So in our country, landlordism is there. That means some people are having lots of land with them. Some people are having very less without land also, farmers. Okay, so that is why government made a law to restrict land owning. Okay, that is called land ceiling acts. So next one is abolition of privy purses. So privy purses are granted in our country after independence to princely states. That means families related to kings families, kings and queens families. But these privy purses were abolished later on after getting independence. Okay, so next nationalization of 14 leading commercial banks. So in our country before 1969 all banks are under private control. So that is why they don't concentrate on the welfare of the people. Okay, so that is why government took step to nationalize all 14 commercial banks into government sector. That means now government will give guidelines for their management. Okay, next one is establishment of Khadi and Village Industries Board and organization of village panchayats. So you know about village panchayats. Okay, so Khadi and village industries means cottage industries. So governments are also taking interest for the development of these industries and also village panchayat. So for village panchayats, government made 73rd and 74th amendments, and from then onwards, from 1993, 1994 onwards, these came into force. Okay, so next coming to the reservation of seats to SCs and STs in educational institutions, employment opportunities and representative body. So these SC, ST and also BCs, so they are very backward in education and employment opportunities. That is why reservations are provided to these category people for educational development and also employment and also political opportunities. Okay, so enactment of ancient and historical monuments and archaeological sites remains act. So this act will protect ancient monuments of our country. Next, separating criminal procedure code from the executive. Okay, so article 50 says that separation of judiciary from the executive. So next, prohibition of cow slaughter, cows and bullocks in some states. So in some states that practice was going on. So that is why governments made a law to stop the cow slaughter. Okay, so next, establishment of primary health centers and hospitals throughout the country. So according to Article 47. So Article 47 says that it is a responsibility of the state to provide nutrition and health to their people. So that is why primary health centers and also hospitals, government hospitals were established to give free treatment to all kinds of diseases. Okay, next, implementation of non-alignment and Panchashil policies. This will say in Article 51. So Article 51 says about international peace. So that is why Indian government made non-alignment policy and also Panchashil principles to have good relations, peaceful relations with our neighboring countries. Okay, so initiation of old age pension scheme. So Article 41 says about this, and that is why Indian governments are giving pensions to old age people and also to unemployees. So help is also given to unemployees by the government. So next, coming to enactment of Minimum Wages Act. So in our country, in some places wages are given properly. In some places wages are not given properly due to competition. So that is why government made an act. That means enactment of Minimum Wages Act. So if a work is done, if this work is done, they should be paid this amount. Okay, so government fixes the minimum wage according to this act. Okay, so next, enactment of Wildlife Act. So Article 48A says that protection of wildlife, forests, rivers. So that is why this act was made, to protect wildlife. Okay, so until now we discussed about the moral and political sanctions. Okay, so next, coming to the last difference is they promote individual welfare. They means here fundamental rights. So fundamental rights promote individual welfare. So these rights are granted to individuals separately. So that is why every individual can enjoy these 6 fundamental rights separately. But whereas coming to the directive principles, they promote the welfare of the entire community. That means these principles will be benefited by all the people of the country. That means it is a collective activity. Okay, so they are enjoyed collectively by all the people, not individually. So I will give you some examples. So government schools and colleges, government hospitals, public parks, libraries, public distribution system or ration shops, midday meals, MNREGA for rural laborers, and DWACRA for women, reservations to SC, ST, BCs in educational institutions and also for employment, scholarships, fees reimbursement, old age pensions, subsidies to farmers, loans at low rate of interest, crop insurances, Arogyasri, 104, 108, etc. These are the examples for the welfare programs which are enjoyed by whole community. That means entire community. These are the welfare programs implemented by both central and state governments in our country. Okay, so that is all about the differences between fundamental rights and directive principles. Okay, so next, coming to the second topic, that is fundamental duties in Indian Constitution. So these are our fundamental duties and they are incorporated in our Constitution in Article 51A. Okay, so these are 10 fundamental rights. At present we are having 11 fundamental rights. So let us discuss one by one in detail. Okay, the first fundamental duty was to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem. So that means every Indian citizen should abide by the Constitution. That means should obey the Constitution and also respect its ideals and institutions. So in our Constitution, there are so many institutions. For example, Parliament, Supreme Courts, Election Commission, Comptroller and Auditor General, UPSC, like that. So we have to give respect to all these institutions and also national flag and the national anthem. Okay, so every Indian should give respect to national flag and national anthem also. So second fundamental duty was to cherish and follow noble ideals which inspired our national struggle for freedom. So we got freedom in 1947. So we did not got freedom in an easy manner. So many freedom strugglers, freedom fighters sacrifice their life, sacrifice their property, sacrifice their everything. So that is why we have to give respect to those freedom fighters ideals. Okay, so next, coming to the third fundamental duty, to uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India. So India became independent in 1947. So from then onwards, it became a sovereign country. That means there is no need to listen to the orders of other countries, or internally also it is supreme. That means Indian government can take its own decisions for the welfare of the people, and Indian citizens should also strive for the unity and integrity of India. He should not do anything for the disunity of our country or which disturbs the integrity of our country. Okay, so next, coming to the fourth fundamental duty, to defend the country and render national service when called upon to do so. So only military people, military persons will not defend our country. It is the duty, it is the responsibility of every Indian to protect our country. That means if our country or if our government asks or demands us to serve our country or to defend our country, we should be ready to serve, and we should be ready to sacrifice even our life also for the sake of our country. Okay, so to promote harmony and the spirit of common brotherhood of India, transcending religious, linguistic and regional or sectional diversities, to renounce practices derogatory to the dignity of women. So here every Indian should behave like brotherhood, like that means fraternity. That means every Indian is our brothers and sisters, and we should also not give importance to religious matters and linguistic matters, regional or sectional diversities. We should not discriminate on the basis of religion, language, regional or section, and also we should not practice those activities which are against the dignity of women. That means we should always give respect to women in this country. Okay, so next, sixth fundamental duty was to value and preserve the rich heritage of our composite culture. So what is rich heritage means? Our country was ruled by so many dynasties, so that is why there is lot of national or historical importance to us. So that is why we have to preserve those rich heritage. Okay, so next, coming to the composite culture. So our culture is different because in our country people belongs to so many religions and people will speak so many languages. That is why their culture also differs, their lifestyle, their food habits, their festivals. Okay, so their traditions will differ. So that is why we should preserve or we should protect this composite or different culture in our country. So that is our responsibility. So next, coming to the seventh fundamental duty, to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. So every Indian should protect our environment, should protect his environment. Okay, like forests, lakes, rivers and wildlife, and to have compassion for living creatures. And also 11th fundamental duty. So next, coming to the 8th fundamental duty, to develop scientific temper, humanism and the spirit of inquiry and reform. So here we have to safeguard our humanism and also scientific temper. That means every Indian should work hard for the scientific development, technology and also spirit of inquiry and reform. So every Indian should concentrate on knowing new things. He should always know more and more knowledge, and he should be ready for reforms. That means he should ready to accept reforms in his life, in the society. Okay, so in the world also. So next, coming to the 9th fundamental duty, to safeguard public property and to abjure violence. That means we should protect public property and also we should not do any violent activity in our country. Next, 10th one is to strive towards excellence in all spheres of individual and collective activity so that the nation constantly rises to higher levels of endeavor and achievement. So here we have to work hard. Okay, so for the excellence in all spheres. So you are a student, so that is why you should work hard in your for your studies and also higher levels of endeavor and achievement. That means here we have to work hard for the development of our country also. So the 11th fundamental duty was who is a parent or guardian to provide opportunities for education to his child, or as the case may be, what between the age of 6 and 14. So that means it gives us about the right to education. That means students who are or children who are in the age of between 6 and 14 years, they should be sent to schools. Okay, so they should not send to work or anywhere else. So this is about 11th fundamental duty. Okay. Okay. So next we are going to learn about these fundamental duties. The first 10 fundamental duties came into force from January 3rd, 1977. That means these fundamental duties are not in our constitution right from the beginning of our constitution. That means from 1950 onwards. Okay, so the 11th fundamental duty came into force from December 2002 onwards. So at first from 1976 to 2002 onwards, all Indian citizens are having only 10 fundamental duties. From 2002 onwards, one more duty was added to the list of fundamental duties, that is regarding right to education. Okay. So next, the 42nd Constitutional Amendment incorporated fundamental duties into our Constitution in Part 4A under Article 51A. Okay. So these fundamental rights are incorporated in Part 4A under Article 51A. Okay, so let us move to the significance of fundamental duty. So these fundamental duties serve as a reminder to perform specific duties towards society and warning to citizens against anti-social activities. That means they will restrict the citizens not to do anti-social activities. What are anti-social activities? Means doing violent activities, criminal activities, terrorist activities, etc. Okay, so they also serve as a warning against the anti-national and anti-social activities like burning the national flag, destroying public property, and so on. That means no Indian should do all these things. That means burning the national flag, destroying public property, because public property is our property. So we are paying taxes and others' property is our property. So that is why we should not do any anti-national. That means actions, activities against to our country and anti-social activities. Okay. So next, they serve as a source of inspiration for the citizens and promote a sense of discipline and commitment among them. That means these fundamental duties will inspire us or will inspire citizens to promote a sense of discipline. So discipline is very important for any human being. Every citizen needs a discipline. Then only he can excel. He can go to the peaks of his life. He can achieve anything. whatever he want, and commitment among them. So commitment means is dedication. So if you want to be a successful person, you should need commitment. Then only you can achieve anything in your life. So these commitment, discipline were given by these fundamental duties. So they also create a feeling that the citizens are no mere spectators but active participants in the realization of national goals. That means these fundamental duties are making us to realize our fulfillment of national goals. So what are our national goals? Sustainable development. That means whatever we need, we should produce, we should manufacture, we should not depend on anybody or any country for anything. So that is sustainable development. So that is our national goal. So these fundamental duties make possible for the realization of national goals. Next, if the court finds that a law in question seeks to give effect to a fundamental duty, it may consider such law to be reasonable. So the court gives importance to those laws which are related to fundamental duties. That means fundamental duties are very important. So that is why courts will also give to those laws which are related to, which are made for the implementation of these fundamental duties. Okay. That is the importance or significance of fundamental duties. So let us come to the conclusion of our topic. That is, with this we have completed almost all the topics in our second lesson. So that is why I want to give you an assignment. So these questions are very important for your public exams. Okay, that is why I am giving you assignment. So please note down all these questions in your notebook and prepare answers and learn them. Okay. The first question I want to give you is, explain the various types of directive principles of state policy. So I repeat, explain the various types of directive principles of state policy. Okay, this question will be given for 10 marks. Okay, and it is very important. And second question is, describe the fundamental duties incorporated in Indian Constitution. So describe the fundamental duties incorporated in Indian Constitution. So this question will be given either for 5 marks or for 10 marks. So you should be ready to write in any way. Okay, so if it is given for 10 marks, you have to write all 11 fundamental duties, and if it is given for 5 marks, you can write only 5 to 6 fundamental rights. Fundamental duties. Okay, so next third question was, explain the differences between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. So third question was, explain the differences between fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy. So in this question, you have to write the differences between fundamental rights and directive principles. So in this session itself, you learnt about them. Okay, so this question will be given for 10 marks. Okay, so you have to write at least 10 differences. Okay, so next coming to the fourth question. So fourth question is, explain any 3 fundamental rights of a citizen. Explain any 3 fundamental rights of a citizen. This question will be given for 5 marks. Here you have to write only 3 fundamental rights. So any 3 fundamental rights can be written in your answer. Okay. Next, fifth question. Describe the 6 freedoms of a citizen. So fifth question was, describe the 6 freedoms of a citizen. So in this question, you have to write 6 freedoms which are mentioned in right to freedom. That means second fundamental right, Article 19 says about these 6 freedoms. So you have to write those 6 freedoms for that question. Okay. So next 6th one is habeas corpus. 6th question is habeas corpus, and this is given for 2 marks, and habeas corpus is one of the writs issued by the Supreme Court or High Court to protect the illegal arrest of a person. Okay, so next 7th question, mandamus. 7th question was mandamus, and this is also given for 2 marks, and this is also one of the writs issued by Supreme Court or High Court against a public official who is not doing his duty perfectly or properly. Okay. Coming to the 8th question, significance of fundamental duties. Okay. 8th question, significance of fundamental duties. So this is also given for 2 marks. So the last topic which we have discussed in this session itself, that means importance of fundamental duties or significance of fundamental duties. You have to write answer for this question. So this is the assignment, and these are the very important questions from 2nd chapter. So that is why I request all the students to go through the 2nd lesson and learn all these questions and be ready to write your public exams. Okay, students, till now we have discussed all the important topics in our session. Okay, so this chapter, that means the 2nd chapter, fundamental rights and directive principles of state policy,